On May 27, 2026, in a conference room outside Moscow, two men shook hands and signed a deal that rewrote the strategic map of South Asia. One was Sergei Shoigu, Secretary of Russia's Security Council. The other was Mullah Yaqub, the Taliban's defense minister and the son of Taliban founder Mullah Omar. What they signed was a military technical cooperation agreement. Russia became not just the first country to formally recognize the Taliban government, it became its arms partner. On that same day, in that same forum, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval was also in Moscow. His presence was not a coincidence. India knew exactly what was happening. And suddenly, Pakistan is looking at a nightmare scenario. A Russia-Taliban channel, an India-Russia strategic reset, and a Taliban regime that is increasingly hostile to Pakistani pressure. The question is simple. Is a new Eurasian axis quietly taking shape? Russia had been building up to this for years. In April 2025, Moscow removed the Taliban from its list of terrorist organizations. In July 2025, Russia became the first country to formally recognize the Taliban government by accepting its ambassador's credentials in the Kremlin. And now, the military agreement, covering defense equipment, training, maintenance, logistics, and security coordination, makes it official. Russia is the Taliban's strategic patron. The exact contents of the pact have not been made public. But military technical cooperation frameworks of this kind typically involve weapons transfers, manufacturing licenses, defense technology, and joint development programs. Analysts at the Observer Research Foundation in New Delhi are cautious about overstating its immediate impact. One expert noted that Russia cannot expect significant military help from the Taliban in return. The Taliban has no modern military hardware to offer. But what Russia gains is something else entirely: a foothold in Central Asia, influence over Afghanistan's future, and leverage over Pakistan, the country that nursed the Taliban for decades and is now at war with it. The Pakistan-Taliban rupture is one of the most dramatic reversals in the region's modern history. The two were once so close that Pakistan was called the Taliban's godfather. Today, they are in open war. In February 2026, Pakistan launched Operation Ghazab-ul-Haq, Righteous Fury, striking Taliban targets in Kabul, Kandahar, and Paktika. The Taliban struck back, hitting Pakistani military bases in Miranshah and Spinwam. Pakistan's defense minister Khawaja Asif said, "Now it is an open war." And here is where it gets uncomfortable for Islamabad. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif accused the Taliban of helping India undermine Pakistan. Pakistan's defense minister went further, calling Afghanistan India's proxy. India's External Affairs Ministry dismissed it as another attempt by Pakistan to externalize its internal failures. But the underlying intelligence picture is clear to everyone watching. India's ties with the Taliban improved sharply through 2025. A Taliban diplomat took charge of the Afghan embassy in New Delhi in January 2026. Now, Russia has armed that same Taliban with a military pact. Pakistan is surrounded by adversaries on two fronts, India to the east and increasingly hostile Taliban to the west, with Russia backing Kabul. This is not a situation Islamabad ever planned for. While the Russia-Taliban pact was being signed, NSA Ajit Doval was meeting Shoigu himself at the same forum. He met Russia's Security Council Secretary. He met First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov to discuss defense, energy, and space. He met Nikolai Patrushev, chairman of Russia's Maritime Board, to review shipbuilding, maritime connectivity, and cooperation for operations in polar waters. And crucially, he also met Myanmar's National Security Advisor Tin Aung San on the sidelines, reviewing security and defense ties ahead of the 5th BIMSTEC NSA meeting in July. At the forum's plenary, Doval made a pointed statement. There can be no double standards in fighting terrorism. The message, directed at Pakistan, at the room, and at the world, was unmistakable. India is conducting diplomacy on multiple tracks simultaneously. Russia is a strategic partner. The Taliban is an emerging channel. Myanmar is a connectivity priority. And New Delhi's message on terrorism is landing on a stage where Pakistan's credibility is at its lowest point in decades. Zoom out, and the picture is striking. Russia now backs both India and the Taliban. China backs Pakistan and once propped up the Taliban too. But Beijing is now watching the Pakistan-Taliban war with alarm, given that its flagship China-Pakistan economic corridor runs through a country increasingly at war with its neighbor. The Taliban has also targeted Chinese-linked infrastructure inside Afghanistan in the past. India is the one power that has managed to maintain working relationships on every side of this chessboard. It buys Russian arms, it engages the Taliban, it shares intelligence with the United States, it has signed a military technical cooperation framework with Russia that dates to 2021. And it just watched its NSA negotiate in Moscow, while Russia handed the Taliban a strategic upgrade. The IISS's latest report confirms what strategic analysts have long suspected. India is preparing its military for large-scale conventional warfare against both China and Pakistan simultaneously. That assessment is being taken seriously in Rawalpindi. At the Shangri-La Dialogue this month, Pakistan's own Rocket Force commander, Lieutenant General Nauman Zakaria, said that deterring India was now a matter of seconds, not minutes.
Pakistan and India, we find ourselves in a neighborhood which is very unique, and we all understand that. We are two nuclear-armed rival nations. There have been nuclear-armed rivals, and the nuclear theory has been expounded starting from 50s till kingdom come, very deliberately. But this is a special case where the reaction times are not in minutes, they are in seconds. So that's very special to South Asia.
Russia's military pact with the Taliban is not just a bilateral agreement, it is a geopolitical signal. It tells Pakistan that its oldest patron, China, and its newer partner, Russia, are both prepared to work around it when strategic interests demand. It tells the region that the Taliban is no longer a pariah. And it tells India that the investment it has made in quiet, patient, multi-directional diplomacy is paying off. India did not create this situation, but India is clearly prepared to use it. The enemy of India's enemy may not be India's friend, but in the current strategic landscape, they may not need to be.
The old rules are breaking. Alliances are shifting.
Apologize again to the victims of the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Wars are redrawing maps. Oil routes can shake economies overnight. One election in America can impact markets in Mumbai.
No tax on tips.
One move by China can alter the balance in Asia. One conflict in West Asia can hit every Indian household. This is no longer a distant story. This is our story. Your story. Because for the first time in decades, India is not watching from the sidelines. India is rising. India is negotiating. India is balancing rivals. India is building military strength. India is shaping trade routes. India is becoming central to the new global order. And yet, most global news is still told through someone else's lens. Washington's lens, Beijing's lens, London's lens. But where is India's lens? Where is the platform that explains the world from our perspective? Welcome to India's Axis, a new destination for geopolitics, strategy and power seen through India's eyes. From Neighborhood Watch to the biggest global stories that matter to you. Why tensions in the Taiwan Strait matter to India. How one move by China can affect India's security. What turmoil in Pakistan means for regional stability. How Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan shape India's neighborhood. Why oil choke points can hit your wallet. How wars abroad can reshape India's security. This is not noise. This is not shouting. This is not recycled headlines. This is sharp, intelligent storytelling. Daily explainers. War room analysis. Strategic conversations. Because news is everywhere. But perspective is rare, and in the age of confusion, clarity is power. Axis is for the audience that wants more than headlines. The axis of global power is shifting. India is at the center of that shift. It's time the world was explained accordingly, to understand the world through India's strategic lens. Subscribe now.